During the last episode, we were following Patricia Pitcher, suggesting that technocrats hate artists so much that they eschew them from the organizations, which are populated by technocrats and a few craftsmen simply to put things together and be able to deliver. Now, this has a root in the way that we organize bureaucracies. You may remember that Americans picked up the idea of Max Weber on how to manage bureaucracies. But this also tied down with Taylor's way of organizing production. So we have a view of doing things in a procedural way that you cannot deviate much from. And this percolated into managing people. And there are templates for you to dress up like, to sound and look and behave like a business person. And this carries on all the way to Brazil, for example. And this is the Association of Brazilian Industrialists. And obviously, they might not always dress that way, but for that picture, they were asked to dress in a particular way. And if you notice, they're all in black. The ties are not Trumpian red, no. And there's apparently only one woman there. And this is what is the expression of just assuring people that do not conform to what is expected. And this ends up with a society that is lonely. And the artists that express this very well in the US are artists like Edward Hopper and Andrew White. You see, these are not the artists of Latin America, which are always focusing on teams of people. No, these focus on the American solitude. And 20 years ago, 25 years ago, Putnam had already seen this. Now we are having an epidemic of loneliness in the US. And he wrote this prescient book called Bowling Alone in America. The people were reluctant to join parents, teachers, associations, unions, and whatever, because they were moving too much, moving from one city to another for a difference of salary. And this broke up the relationship with the community. And this extended loneliness to the point that people would now, instead of having leagues of bowling across states, now they would bowl alone. And of course, this sense of loneliness fosters the idea that there are people who we like and people who are not like us, and we might even want to kill them, and we might even take a high caliber gun into the groceries. It's ridiculous, but that's what's happened. Now, how does this reflect into the organizational structure? Because organizations do not all begin large. No, when they begin small. So let's look at this idea of Goffey and Jones. You have this space here. At the bottom and the x-axis you have solidarity, and it's higher towards your right. And on the y-axis you've got the idea of gregariousness, and it's higher to the top. Now this space has to be filled, and of course the first idea is when the organization begins, everybody likes each other because these are a bunch of friends who have started the business together. It's small. They like each other. After work, what do you mean work? After work is life. And they get together and they are like parents to the children of the others. And they hate people outside. But eventually this organization grows and it has to find other places to work on. And this is when some go away. Say, go and fund a place, a subsidiary somewhere else. And initially it's small, but it grows. And as it grows, it needs to reflect the original culture. So, for example, it ends up having a newspaper, where people can keep in contact. Oh, look at Mary, she married, and a couple of months later, oh, Mary had a baby. And this is how they expect to recreate the culture of the organization, to tie it together. But you know what happens after some time? The people that they have hired locally realize that the funders of this subsidiary are in much greater contact with the people that make the decisions, who have remained at headquarters. And they feel that they have been left outside. So in order to work, they exact money from you. And this is when the organization becomes mercenary. I will do this if you give me that. And that is the way in which it is organized. And the people who are artists don't fit into this structure. Because they work because they like it, and they don't really do it for money, but of course they need the money. But the way that they behave is essentially means that they don't belong. And there is the other type of organization which is fragmented, and it's not a business organization, but it can be one. For example, a bunch of lawyers that get together to reduce costs, and they rent a place, and they just share the lights and the receptionist. But each one has their own business. It's quite common. Even universities behave like this. I mean, do you think the rector has any power? No. The power is in the departments. The rector simply coordinates. But essentially what you have here is a picture of how societies, how organizations grow. They are very harmonious and communal at first, then they are networked, and then they become mercenary. And this is the way in which they behave, and this is why there's little room for creative people, for the artists. They are kicked out. See you in the next one.